We are in Chavtet and Mudal of 29a, 3 lines up from the bottom. Ihaki. Okay. We're asking a question on a Rava right now. Let's kind of try to remember what's going on over here. We have a guy who said, I want to make these trees a donation to the Bet HaMikdash. So, Bar Peda said, this is on Chavchet Amud Bet, he says, I'm going to make a donation until they get cut. They belong to the Bet HaMikdash until they get cut. Bar Peda is of the opinion, I'm just saying Bar Peda now because we're going to bring him up later. And actually something later, Nisim, you were mechaven, something later, you're going to see something that you said. So Bar Peda says, if you cut the tree, you might think the Kedusha goes away. He says, no, the Kedusha can't just go away, and it's got to go on to something else. We'll get back to that. Ula is of the opinion that the guy said it's holy until you cut it. Once you cut it, it loses its holiness. Okay? That's Ula. So Rav Himnuna had a question that he said, like, how could the Kedusha go away? It's like you tell a lady, okay, we're married today, we're not married tomorrow. Like even at the onset, you say, okay, we're going to be married just Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So that you can't just do that without a get. There needs to be something there. So Rava, who we're going to be questioning him right now, we're going to ask on him, but Rava then said on Rav Himnuna, he says, you're trying to compare the case of the tree and the case of a wife? It's two different cases, because the case of the tree it's called Kedushat Damim, which is a holiness, but it's attached to money, meaning the Bet HaMikdash didn't need that tree. It's the value of that tree that afterwards they're going to sell it and use the money to buy sheep, to buy whatever they need. So that's a money thing. Whereas when it comes to, let's say, a wife, it's called Kedushat HaGuf. Her entire body, her entire being is holy, meaning holy is something separate, is separate from all of the woman for me, as my wife. When I say she's my wife, so you can't have that you can't compare the two. One is holy in money, and therefore it's movable, whereas holy in body is not movable, because a wife cannot be a wife just a couple of days. It's either she's your wife or not your wife. So how can you compare the two? So Abaye asks on Rava and says, really, a case of Kedushat HaGuf, a case of the body being holy, its holiness can't go away like this. I'll show you that its holiness can go away even without anything, without a get, without anything happening. And that's the case that he brings of a person who says, this ox is going to be a korban olah, a fully burnt korban for 30 days. And meaning if it's not, it's for 30 days. If it's offered within those 30 days, then it's offered as an olah. If it's not offered within 30 days, then that status, I'm declaring this in the beginning, the status of that korban, of that sacrifice, is going to change to a shlamim. We said a shlamim is a type of offering that the owner has a piece, the kohen has a piece, and a piece goes onto the altar, onto the mizbeach. So the Gemara's ruling there is that it changes without anything happening. Just the fact that he's announced it at the beginning, 30 days later, it changes. And a korban is a kedushat haguf, that the entire body and essence of the korban is holy. So it switches without any get or anything like that.
Offer the ox how for 30 days?
He says, this is going to be an offering of an olah. If I succeed in traveling to Jerusalem and offering it within 30 days, it's going to be an olah. If 30 days pass, then day 31 switches to a shlamim type.
Okay, but so if I travel to Jerusalem
and bring it within 30 days, it's an olah.
So I can just go by the countryside.
You could just,
There's no.
You made the stipulation at the beginning, so it's in your hand to do what it is.
So there's no real incentive to get it to.
Well, you're right. I don't know the.
If I can understand the other way around. If I get it to 30 days, I share it with with the Kohen and the etc. But if it takes me more than 30 days, then I lose it all.
Right.
I'm just curious, and it's like.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, maybe the incentive is because this is actually something Nisim said in, because the olah is holier because we're gonna see that on the next page. Is it because it's fully for Hashem? So maybe the guy's like, I want to bring the holiest korban, and therefore I want to travel to Jerusalem. Then it's gonna go to a lower grade, which is sharing. For you, we looked at it like that's a higher grade, but it's a lower grade because now everyone could share it and it doesn't fully go on the altar. I want to push myself, so that's a good what I call fill in the blank, meaning What's the reasoning why he said this? I don't know. Fill in the blank. To make me go to Jerusalem faster. To I have a bet with my son. I'll get there in 30 days, and if not, it's going to be a shlamim. Whatever. Right. So, but that's what he stipulated at the beginning. This is going to be this ox is going to be an olah. If the job isn't done within 30 days, it's gonna switch to shlamim, and it switches automatically without any process. So that's a kedushat haguf. That's its body is holy. The whole thing is holy, and we see over there that it switches without any process.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens if after the second condition nothing happens?
So it's not two sets of 30 days. It's 30 days, and then after that it's for life. It's shlamim.
Well, no, you could make
Unless you put
Unless you put a
you could
condition.
put another
Right.
condition
If you do,
at the outset.
But if you do,
that's it.
it still has to be a korban eventually.
Yeah, I don't think you could take it from a korban. If it's not offered in 30 days, it goes back to my possession. I don't think so. But it's a good question. But so Abaye now tells Rava, hey, I showed you a case of kedushat haguf, holiness on the body, and it does move from one to the next without any process. The Gemara answered for Rava by saying, by answering Hacha b'mayaskin, and the case here is the Amar Lidmei, meaning the person at the onset said, I want the money value of this ox to be offered as a olah, and then if not after 30 days, it's going to offer it as. So he originally didn't stipulate it as a kedushat haguf, the entire body. So that's how he answered for Rava. But so Abaye's question got deflected by the last answer. But now the Gemara is going to ask a question on Rava, because Rava, his opinion is kedushat haguf, something that its body is holy, can't just go away without a process. Just like a married woman, it has to go away with a process of a get. Or so says the Gemara, Iachi. If so, Ema Seifa. Let's look at the latter piece of that braita, meaning. When we said the case of, for 30 days it's going to be an olah, after 30 days it's going to be a shlamim, there's actually a second case that happened. What's the second case? Lachar lamed yom olah umeachshav shlamim. The wording, it's the same ruling, but the wording is different. The guy here says, after 30 days it's going to be an olah. Today it's a shlamim. And here it's flipped. So the first case again was, for these 30 days it's going to be an olah. And if it passes 30 days, it's going to turn into a shlamim. And then the next case is after 30 days, the guy says this, after 30 days, this animal is going to be an olah. Today it's a shlamim. Shlamim. So now the Gemara is going to dissect these cases and say, basically, like, why do you need to teach me this case twice? You basically said it in a reverse order. What's the point of teaching this to me twice? So the Gemara says as follows. I amrat bishlema, that's the aleph bet. I amrat bishlema, if you want to say that it works well, if I need these two cases to teach me, chada b'kedushat haguf, v'chada b'kedushat damim. That one case is coming to teach me a case of the holiness of the body, and one, the holiness of the money, where we said that the holiness of the body is more difficult to just take away its holiness without a process, as opposed to the holiness of money, which you can. So if I'm teaching you two cases, one is referring to the case of Kedushat Haguf, one is Kedushat Damim, and again, the ruling in both these cases is that it indeed switches over without a process. It indeed switches over. Then basically, this is a great example of teaching me how both Kedushat Haguf and Kedushat Damim both change over from one to the next without any process. It would make sense to say that's why I need the two cases. Our question was, why do I need two cases that are basically saying the same thing? And the Gemara says, if you want to say, and this is a bishlema, chada b'kedushat haguf v'chada b'kedushat damim, that one case is a holiness of the body, and one case is a holiness of the money. Next page. Hainu de itzrich letana lemitna tarti. That's why our Tana needed to teach us two cases. This because I would have thought kedushat haguf lo paka bikdi, the holiness on a body does not go away for nothing. Bikdi means like for nothing, without a process, without get or anything like that. Kedushat damim paka bikdi, but kedushat damim does go away with nothing. So I would have thought that the holiness of the body does not go out. It needs to go with a process. Kedusha, the money, holiness of money on an item could go away without a process. But amtulehachi tanatarti, and therefore we get to the conclusion of that's why we need two. Meaning, and therefore we need two cases to teach me a chidush, a novelty, that indeed both of them they go out bikdi. Both of them go out without a process. Both kedushat haguf and kedushat damim. Ela I amrat, but if you're going to say, now there's the question on Rava, because Rava, his opinion was, when it comes to kedushat haguf, kedusha on the body, like a woman, that's what he says. How could you, a woman, well, she's married these days, not that, those days, you didn't get to do that. So kedushat haguf, Rava says, is stuck unless there's a process, like a get. But kedushat damim, that could go away. So if he's stuck on kedushat haguf that it can't go away for no reason, then the question on Rava is, why did that Braita need to teach us two cases? 30 days olah, then shlamim, and then the other way was, in 30 days it's going to be olah, today it's shlamim. Basically you're saying the same thing. So according to Abaye, that says you can remove a kedushat haguf even without a process, then I need two cases. You know why? One case is kedushat haguf, one case is kedushat damim, and I say both of them is to teach me that I can remove them without a process, bikti. But according to Rava, that says kedushat haguf is immovable. You need a process to get rid of that holiness of the entire body on that item. And therefore, why do I need two cases of kedushat damim? That's the question now. Ela I amrat, if you're going to say idi kedushat damim, both are kedushat damim cases, because in both those cases the process ends without without anything, meaning the kedusha falls off. Lama li natarti. Why do I need two cases of the same thing? And now the Gemara is going to ask even further, strengthen the question. Hashta yesh lomar mikdusha chamura likdusha kala pak'a, mikdusha kala likdusha chamura l'tzricha lememar. The Gemara is adding salt to the question against Rava. And the salt of the question is, if you look closely at the cases, there's a little bit of a difference. In case number one, it starts as olah, then goes to shlamim. In case number two, the wording is different, but the case is also different. It says in 30 days it's going to be an olah, today it's a shlamim. So in case number one, it goes from olah to shlamim. Case number two, it's shlamim to olah. So case number one, olah to shlamim, olah is a higher holiness than the shlamim, because its entire body, its entire animal body, its entirety goes onto the altar, onto the mizbeach. So therefore, if I tell you in the kedusha of olah, that could turn to a shlamim without a process, that's a massive chidush, that this higher level could go down to a lower level korban without a process. Then all the more so, a lower level could go to a higher level without a process. So why did it need those two cases? It's just strengthening the question. Let's read it again inside. Hashli Yishlomar. And now we could even say, Mikdusha Chamura, from a more stringent type of holiness, which is the Korban Olah, Likdusha Kala Paka, it could go out to a smaller holiness. Mikdusha Kala, Likdusha Chamura, Tzricha Lememar, from a lower holiness to a higher holiness. Do I need to say it? Then obviously it could go. Going up, you could always go up, but going down from a higher holiness to a lower holiness, then so therefore this is a second question or additional part of the question on Rava. Why do I need those two cases of 30 days today and it's going to switch after that to shlamim, and the second case is in 30 days it's going to be olah, today it's shlamim. Both those cases, the ruling was it actually switches without any get, without any other process. And according to Abaye, one case is Katam Kedushat Haguf, one case is Kedushat Damim, and therefore the Chidush is even in Kedushat Haguf, you could remove it, it could switch to the other process. According to Abaye, according to Rava, who says both are talking about Kedushat Damim, what do I need two cases for? So at this point, the Gemara remains with that question on Rava.
I have a comment, let's say. Maybe in the first case, where if we go in 30 days, it's Ola, and then it's going to be it makes sense to me only in this case. For example, if maybe they are going from north or south, very like from Elat, let's say, and it's 10 days usually road. then it makes sense that you say like, okay, in this week I'm gonna go to the road. So if I can arrive to Yerushalayim in 30 days, it's Olah. If not, it's a Shalom. It's like
Trying to test
Hashem.
yourself.
Yeah, like it's like
Kind of like what Claude was
you know
saying.
Yeah.
But that's again, fill in the blank. Whatever the case is that got you there. We don't know. So, but it seems like in all these type of cases, it switches without a get, without a pros, without a star, without anything else, without any bracha or anything like that. Just switches. Okay, so that's our question on Rava, and the Gemara is going to remain with that question. We're going to continue shortly, but let's take a look at the run. The run is the bottom one on 29a. Iyamrat bishlama. Let's loosen the tie over here. We're diving into the deep waters over here. Okay. Iyamrat bishlama chada b'kedushat haguf v'chada b'kedushat hamim hainu diktani tarti. It's understandable if you want to look at a biased perspective that these two cases of Olan Shlamim are needed because one is teaching us Kedushat Haguf, one is teaching us Kedushat Damim. Klomar, coming to explain. The Tana Seifa Legluye Reisha, the latter case comes to reveal on the earlier case. Shalot Tomar Davka Kedushat Damim Paka Bichdi, Kedushat Haguf Lo Paka. Don't say that specifically in a case of a holiness of money, that's where the holiness goes away with no process as opposed to kedusha of the body. That's why the Tana taught us two cases. To teach us that even if it's holy on the body, it could go away without a process. But according to you, which is Rava, this that you hold kedushat haguf lo paka bichti, the kedusha of the body can't go away for no process. And therefore, we're talking about this case of Olan Shlamim is a case of kedushat damim. Tarti lamali. Why do I need two cases? The itotav Rava is stuck. This question puts him in a corner. The vadai shaminan meha, because we for sure could learn from here. Even somebody that has a kedusha of the guf could go away without a process. Hilkach lerava lohavi lelahadure lerahimnuna. Maika medama kedushat haguf to kedushat tamim. Second, the amas related kedushat haguf to hekdesh lo pakam kedushat tamim de isha. And the yacham v'levimer to lo dami isha le hekdesh shom de'en isha lechatzayin כמו שכתבתי למעלה. Okay. אבל hekdesh intel lezman yedua v'avil kedushat haguf pakam. So here the Ran wants to just say that okay, so that was the question that we got on Rava, and then the Ran goes on a side note of there is, as we said last time, there's a difference between the kedusha of the goof of a woman and kedusha of the goof of an animal. Where the kedusha of the goof of a woman indeed still needs a get. Rava is not going to say that it doesn't need a get, or Abai is not going to say it doesn't need a get, whereas the kedusha of hekdesh of an animal is different. Okay, let's continue in the Gemara. Now with this information, we have another question here on Bar Peda. We'll repeat what Bar Peda says in a moment. 7 lines down, last word of the line. Lema tiyave tiyuvta de Bar Peda. Let this Braita, let this case of the Olan Shlamim be a question on Bar Peda. The Amar lo paka kedusha bichi. Well, let's remember, what's Bar Peda's opinion? We're always discussing Ula's opinion. Bar Peda was, we mentioned at the beginning of the shiur, when a guy donates this tree. So this tree is going to be for the Bet HaMikdash until it gets cut. Ula said, if it gets cut, the holiness goes away. Bar Peda said, no, it can't. You can't have holiness that just goes away somewhere. So even if it gets cut, you need to take that value of the tree and put it onto something else and give that to the Bet HaMikdash. So Bar Peda, even in the case of damim, in the case of money, the holiness doesn't go away just like that. You need to attach that holiness to somewhere. So therefore, we have a big question on Bar Peda, because the whole case of this is now an Ola, and then it's transferring to Shlamim. This is a Shlamim, and now it's going to transfer to an Ola after 30 days. It just transfers, it loses the Kedusha. The Ola is a higher level Kedusha. It just leaves, and now it turns into Shlamim, without anything. How does Bar Peda learn that Gemara? So that's the question on Bar Peda. Let this be a strong question on Bar Peda. Amar lo paka kedusha bikdi, that he says the kedusha cannot just go away. Answers the Gemara. Amar of Papa. Amar lach bar peda. You know what bar peda would answer you? Haki kamar. This is what he would say. Im lo amar me'achshav shlamim. Im lo amar me'achshav shlamim. Lachar lamed yom olahavi. He would say as follows. This is how he put the wording into the case of the Braita. Im lo amar me'achshav shlamim. If I don't say that from now it's a shlamim, le'achar lamed yom olahavi. In 30 days it's going to be an olah. If I don't say that from now it's a shlamim, then in 30 days it's going to be an olah. Let's repeat that again. How is Bar Peda learning the case of olah and shlamim? He's saying, Im lo amar me'achshav shlamim. If he doesn't say, if I don't say that from now it's a shlamim, then in 30 days it will be an olah. So if you don't say nothing, then in 30 days it will be an olah. So I think the way that Bar Peda is learning this case is just in 30 days it will be an olah. So it's not talking about a case of the kedusha leaving to the next. He's translating the case as, if I don't say from now it's a shlamim, then in 30 days it's an olah. Like there's a new case over here. I have an animal. It's nothing. It's not a korban. It's my animal. I say, okay, if I don't say that from now it's turning into a shlamim, then in 30 days it's going to be an olah. If I do say now it's a shlamim, then it's a shlamim now.
But the Tanya didn't say that. It wasn't stated that it's not such shlamim.
Right. So you're right. How does this fit into the Braita? But he's saying that that's the case of the Braita. We'll see. I think the Ran's going to address that, or maybe the Gemara itself. But he's saying, you know what that case of the Braita was? It wasn't the case of transfer of holiness, because that's our whole question of Bar Peda. How can you transfer holiness? You don't even transfer holiness on money without being a process of taking that money value, putting it onto something else. So how do you deal with this case of the Olah and the Shlamim? So he answers, no, the case is talking about if I don't say it's Shlamim now, then it's an Olah in 30 days. So it's either this or that. It never transfers from one to the next. So he wiggles out of it. Midi de'ava, and the Gemara says, just like a case of Haomer le'isha, hitkachi li lachar lamed yom. Just like a case of if a man tells a woman, marry me, and it's going to kick in 30 days. So he's giving her the money now, but it's kicking in 30 days. The mekudeshet ve'avapi shintaklu hamaot. That it works, even if she spent the money. I mean, if even day 30 comes, and the money that he gave her, we give a ring, or say he gave money, then, and she spent it, that's fine, because it started today, but it kicked in 30 days. So how is that a comparison? It's a comparison because it didn't switch from one holiness to another holiness without any process in between. It was just one holiness, meaning she was still single. She was still single until 30 days kicked in. Like it would be a question, let's say in day 15, if God forbid someone would take advantage of her, is it going with a married woman or non-married woman? Or can she accept marriage?
She accepted marriage. She's in a contract.
She's in a contract, so it's kicking in 30 days.
Contract.
So yeah, so maybe these are side questions, but let's say some guy comes in after day 5, so we marry me now. Marry me now. So does that mean she gets married now, and then in 30 days it doesn't work because she's already married? At day 5 she got married to someone else.
But she has to break the contract.
So it's she got the money today, but it's kicking in later. Okay, I think these are side questions because what he wants to prove is that there's an elapse of time, but that elapse of time doesn't switch from one kedusha to another kedusha. It just goes from nothing to a kedusha, like single girl to a married woman. Not from it's not like married woman to married woman. You can't have such a case, right? Like, okay, lady, I'm marrying you for 5 years, and in 5 years, this guy's going to take over. She's going to go search. We'll make that stipulation at the beginning, right? That doesn't go, right? That doesn't go, right? So,
Can I be first?
first is flip a
First
coin.
is more money.
Flip a coin.
Okay, so not to take it off track, but historically when men had multiple wives, right? Even our forefathers had multiple wives. They must have done an allocation, where I was with someone Monday, with someone Tuesday, someone Wednesday.
Okay, they had a
But still,
rotation.
Rotation.
Even in the
Okay.
rotation, the other days, they're their wives.
still
It's not like
wives.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
it's
seeing
also
you tonight,
exact.
but I'm not your wife.
100%.
They're still
exactly,
married.
Exactly, yeah.
You see, that's why if you go back to
So that's why we see,
the
we
Torah,
don't do it anymore.
you would see that it's the man married, your man who has relationships with the married woman, not the married man. The woman with the married man. It's only one way.
You're saying if in a cheating situation or whatever.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's a little bit
but
it's
we
written by a man.
Remember, we're recording right now. Remember, we're recording. Okay.
Now we're gonna see how many people are actually listening to those recordings.
I'll get messages, don't worry. Rabbi, I like today's recording. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so Bar Pida, he answers that in the case of the Olan Shlamim, it's not transfer from one Kedusha to the other. He's explaining the case is if I don't say Shlamim now, then in 30 days it's an Olah. So it's going from nothing to an Olah. Or Shlamim right away, and never an Olah. Just like marry me in 30 days, I'm giving you the money now, but marry me in 30 days, even if the money's spent, you're going still from a single girl to married. Okay. So the Gemara that's the way that Bar Peda wiggles out of this question on him. Let's take a look at the run, top right. Amar Rav Papa. Hachik Amar. Im lo amar me'achshav shlamim la'achar 30 yom ola. Rav Papa answers for Bar Peda. Pirush. Seifa atina letirutze. Aval reisha kedekaima kaima. Says that the second case is what we are answering, but the first case of it's olah for 30 days and it switches to shlamim, that remains. How does that work? U'la'olam de'amar lidme. U'la'olam de'amar lidme. And he's talking about the money and not the goof. Okay? לא תקשי דבר פדה דמוקי לה בפדיון, אבל ספר מתרצינן, תחי כמר, לאחר למד יום עולה ומעכשיו שלמים. In 30 it's going to be an עולה, but from now it's a שלמים. לאחר למד יום תהה עולה כדבריו, אם לא אמר מעכשיו שלמים. In 30 days it will be an עולה, לאחר למד יום תהה עולה כדבריו, אם לא אמר מעכשיו שלמים. Okay. In 30 days it's going to be an עולה, if right now it's not שלמים. כמה שמה תרתי. This comes to teach us two things. חדה, דכי אמר לאחר למד יום עולה בלחוד, חייל. If a guy says, all he says is, in 30 days I want this to be an עולה. He doesn't say, and now shlamim. In 30 days I want this to be an עולה, חייל, it works. ולא תמקימן דלא kadosh hashta, lo kadosh nami dacha shata deleta. So don't say that, oh, if it's not holy now, it can't just pop into holiness later in 30 days. Deleta. It's not like that. Ela lebatar zmana nami chayil midam hava aha omer leisha. So it's similar to the case. It does work. Like when you tell a lady, I'm giving you the money today, but the marriage is kicking in 30 days. Fine. Kamash nami. And we also learn from here, if you didn't say that from now to shlamim, then in 30 days it works to be an olah. If now I say, oh, now it's a shlamim, then in 30 days it's not an olah. Many things are learned from here. We could learn from here that Kedushat HaGuf does not come off just for no reason, like Bar Peda. Because what I'm saying here is, it's not transferring from one to another. It's either Shlamim now, or an Ola later. But it's not going from Shlamim to Ola to Shlamim. Okay.
Doesn't go from Ola Shlamim?
No, in the way Bar Peda is translating it, the way Bar Peda is translating it is, if I don't say it's Shlamim now, then in 30 days it's an Ola. So it's nothing now and then 30 days it's an Ola. But if I do say it's Shlamim now, then it's Shlamim now. And nothing to do with the Ola later. So it's always going from nothing to either Shlamim or nothing to Ola. Never from Ola to Shlamim or Shlamim to Ola. Okay. Yeah, I think the run it answers how it fits into the words exactly. I don't have it offhand, and it's a little bit of a long run. Okay, let's see. Let's continue. Let's see the Gemara. The Gemara asks a question. 7 lines up from the bottom. Pshita. The Gemara asks a question. Isn't this obvious? Let's see what this is. The last five lines here was where I had run into a little bit of trouble. Let's see. What is the Gemara's question of Pshita? It's obvious. It's obvious that it works. Meaning, what is Rav? If Bar Peda if Rav Papa is explaining Bar Peda to say that if I don't say it's Shlamim now, then in 30 days it kicks in to be an Ola. Like telling a woman, we're going to get married in 30 days, I'm giving you the money now, but it kicks in 30 days. That's obvious. It's obvious that it works. It's obvious that it works. Ran Pshita, Klomar Pshita de Mehani. It's obvious that it works.
But it makes sense that
Over time things will get better. What do you mean?
Well, like, we're studying, we're getting better. We're learning.
Yeah.
So we're getting more
So therefore
closer.
what?
So we're getting more holy.
Okay, so what's the connection to here?
But it's the other way around, which is harder to understand. Like when you go down.
No, but here the Gemara is asking Pshita. Pshita means it's obvious. What's obvious? I think the question of the Gemara is, your understanding, Bar Peda, is that this case really means the guy says, if I don't say Shlamim now, it's going to be an Ola in 30 days.
Which is better.
Yeah, well, it's a different type of korban, but it's going to be an Ola in 30 days. And then just like when you tell a woman, giving you money today, but our marriage is kicking in 30 days, that it works.
Got an engagement.
Okay, but it's that concept that I could do something from now and it kicks in for later. That the Gemara says that's obvious. Meaning, I know that we don't need you, Bar Peda, to teach us that. We know that already.
Right.
That's the Gemara's question. That concept is obvious. And okay, so that the Ran was asking, maybe it's not so obvious because the money has been spent. And even though if the money was spent, so you might think that maybe if the money is spent, then maybe it's not so obvious. Okay, fine. So that's the question. The question is, Bar Peda, you explained that the case here is something today, but it's going to kick in 30 days. We know that concept. Gemara answers, look, you need it. You know what Bar Peda came to teach us? In the case of hadarbe, meaning you reneged on your deal, that it still works. It still goes through. I mean, you can't renege on the deal.
You can say, I don't want to give this animal anymore, and then you just eat it, because
that's
it's not there anymore. After 30 days, then it's not going to be.
No, but but then that's
But then you
I think that's
transfer it
where the
onto something else that you give.
transfer to something else. No, so I think the answer over here is the hadarbe is that if it's that guy makes here, we're getting married. I'm giving you the money now, the marriage money, but it kicks in 30 days. Day 10, you can't say, you know what, forget it, give me the money back. Whatever. No. Then it already kicks in. It's already worked. So therefore, you can't renege on it. That's what the chidush is. So too, here this animal, if I don't say from now it's shlamim, then in 30 days it's going to be an olah. So I didn't say shlamim now. In 30 days it's going to be an olah. Day 10 is, you know what? Forget it. My whole thing. I want to go back on it. No, you can't go back on it. And that's what the chidush of bar pedah is. That you can't go back on what you said.
So it sticks as a shlamim?
No, it sticks. With an example I just gave, it sticks as an olah.
In
Meaning
30 days.
what?
In 30 days.
In 30 days.
Well,
I mean, the case again was, if I don't say shlamim now, then in 30 days it's an olah. And I don't say shlamim now, I don't say anything. That means in 30 days it's going to be an olah. Day 10, I decide, so we asked on Bar Pedah, okay, we know that already, Bar Pedah. We know that you could do things from today, it's going to kick in later. You don't need to teach that to us. Answers the Gemara, you know what he came to teach us? He teaches that you can't go back on it in the middle. Once I've done it today, I said, if I don't say, that's Akshav, and let's say Akshav, he gives himself an hour. If I don't say within the next hour that this animal is a shlamim, then in 30 days it's going to be an olah. And that hour passes, in 30 days it's an olah. It seems you can't do anything about it.
so that means that for the 30 days you can benefit the animal but not murdering. Like
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you could.
Milk, whatever it is.
You can do what you want, but in 30 days it's going to be an olah. You can't renege from that. You can't go back on that. And so too, a man says, here's the money to the lady, kiddushin, and kicks in 30 days. You can't change that for maybe a get, or maybe wait till 30 days, then give a get. So that's the chidush of Bar Pedah. That's what the Gemara says. That's what Bar Pedah came to teach us. And the Gemara analyze this is Hanich Leman de Amar. This is good according to the opinion. Ena chozeret. Hanich Leman de Amar. Ena chozeret. What's this talking about? Machlok and Masechet Kiddushin. Yeah, this is talking about that case of. So Bar Pedah didn't speak about Kiddushin. Bar Pedah spoke about the case of Olah and Shlamim. So, but the Rav Papa gave an analogy to compare it to Kiddushin. So Bar Pedah's case of, if I don't say Shlamim now, then in 30 days it's going to be an Olah. You can't go back on that. That's this Chidush. So analyzes the Gemara. Hold on a second. That's good according to the opinion that says Ena Chozeret, meaning we know that in that Gemara over there, it says you can't go back in the case of Kiddushin. But there is an opinion that says you can go back on it. So how does Bar Pedah fit with that opinion?
That you can, right? Or you can.
That you can
Oh, okay.
that you can go back on it in the case of marriage. Meaning we're comparing the two. We're comparing the case of Olah and Shlamim and the case of marriage in 30 days. Olah in 30 days, marriage in 30 days. The chidush of Bar Pedah is Olah in 30 days, you can't go back on it. He goes, hold on a second. That's your chidush. That's why we needed you, Bar Pedah. That's why you said this thing that no one else, earth-shattering thing, no one else knew, that in 30 days you can't renege on that. You can't go back on it. Hang on a second. We compare that to marriage in 30 days. Marriage in 30 days, there's actually a discussion about that, if you can go back within that time or not. Meaning, so you fit with the opinion that says you can't go back on it. But there is an opinion that says you could go back on it. So how do you fit with that? That's the question. Chozeret ma'ikal memar. Answers the Gemara. I feel hatam chozeret, even though in the case of marriage, that there's an opinion that says you can go back on it, hachashani. Here is different. Here by korbanot is different. Da'amirato legavoa kemesira lehediot. This is a beautiful line that says, when you say something for the gavoa, for the great one, which is for Hashem, it's like you gave something to a person, to a regular person. Meaning, you can't go back on it. Meaning like this, Bar Pedah, what's your chidush, Bar Pedah? Bar Pedah's chidush is, if I say it's an Olah in 30 days, I can't go back on it in the middle. Hold on a second. It comes to, you compared it to marriage in 30 days? Marriage in 30 days, there's actually that discussion if you could go back on it or not. So yeah, you fit with the opinion that says you can't go back on it. But there's an opinion that says you could go back on it. And that argues against you, Bar Pedah. Says Bar Pedah, no, there's a big difference in marriage and korbanot. Korbanot is higher in a certain way. Korbanot is for Hashem. When it comes to marriage, okay, there's an opinion that says you could go back on it. When it comes to korbanot is so great that when I say I'm giving this as a korban olah in 30 days, it kicks in and it's as if I already gave it to a human being. Meaning, when I say something to Hashem, this is for you, Hashem, in 30 days, it's as if I gave it to someone already in a physical way. So therefore, you can't go back on it. And that's what Bar Pedah says. And that's the Chidush of Bar Pedah. Even though there was a comparison to marriage, but the comparison to marriage is not, we still need Bar Pedah's opinion, because even in the comparison to marriage, you could go back on it. Says Bar Pedah, no, that's different. Marriage is one thing, okay, there's an opinion that says you could go back on it. But Bar Pedah says when it comes to Korbanot, once I say it's for Hashem, it's as if I gave it, and therefore, even though it kicks in 30 days, I can't go back on it. So that's why we need Bar Pedah. So there was a question on Bar Pedah, what do you need him for? We found a reason what we need him for. His chidush is that you can't go back on the kedusha, because Bar Pedah's opinion was when I cut off that tree, that kedusha goes somewhere. If that kedusha goes somewhere, how do you understand the case of the olah and the shlamim just transfers from olah to shlamim just like that? Answers Bar Pedah, no, that case is not that it just transfers. The case is either it's olah or either it's shlamim. And the case is it's going to be shlamim in 30 days. It's going to be shlamim in 30 days. So we know that already, Bar Pedah. What are you coming to teach us? It's none of that you can't renege on the 30 days. Yeah, well, in marriage you could. No, in Korbanot it's different because it's as if I gave it already and you can't go back on that. But the question on Rava remains. The question, that's how we started the Gemara. And Abaye is good, Ula is good, and even Bar Pedah's opinion at this point stands. And we're stopping here, 3 lines up from the bottom. The Yativ, another question, and we'll save that for Sunday morning. Chazak.
You can transfer, right?